One, you know, they were just going by the language of the trend, so don't get mad at us. Uh, to be honest, I feel as if even though I have used it and use it just to describe the way I interact with some circumstances, I feel it's just gone a little too out of hand.
Airplane.
Yeah, oh yeah, I infamously raw dog my airplane rides where I don't sleep, I don't read. Although I do plan to start actually reading. I don't talk. I don't work. I sit. I look, and I patiently wait to arrive to my destination. But yeah, I've heard people apply that to like every to damn it everything, like raw dogging, eating stuff, raw dogging work, and apparently there's a trend going on, raw dogging boredom. I don't know if y'all heard about this, but I actually want to talk about it. I heard about it like weeks back, or not heard about it, but saw it, and like, uh, you know, it's one of those things where like it's kind of I feel like people are just doing it ironically. Ironically, they're doing something like to kind of get away from like social media and like the internet and attention, but they're also like I guess contributing into it. So this one user, uh, data driven KT. I don't know if that's the actual person, but um, they posted themselves raw dogging boredom, which, if anyone's not familiar with the term, it's effectively, and again, my apologies, context please, be yada yada. It's effectively for 1 hour, you just sit and don't do much of anything. Obviously, it's just audio when the person actually doing it because there's no talking involved. But I guess just play that video and let's for ourselves examine what this looks like. So, again, for audio listeners only, um, yeah, you just have this person sitting in what looks like a hallway or a room, and they are just literally doing not much of anything for an hour. Obviously, there is some movement and some fidgeting and some, I think if you had to just sit still for like literally for an hour, I think that might drive some people insane. But maybe as humans, we should be able to do that. And specifically their reason for doing it, I'm not sure if this is everybody's reason for doing it. Specifically, their reason for doing it is kind of outlined in their caption. So they posted, "This is how this is how you rebuild your dopamine baseline. Boredom is the new superpower." Most people don't realize how fried their attention span really is. 1 hour with no phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your thoughts is like resistance training for the brain. Here's what happens when you do it regularly. Your dopamine system starts to reset. Focus and task initiation gets easier. Mental fatigue drops. Creativity and self control go way up. And they say it's comfortable at first, but if you can sit with your boredom, you can do anything. Try 1 hour, no noise, no scroll, just stillness. Um. So yeah, I also have pulled up an article around it because again, this is a trend that's really kind of I don't know if it's getting attention because it's a trend that's based in boredom is kind of like something that's kind of oxymoronic. But this article by Newsweek, I believe, it kind of goes into like the Gen Z raw dogging boredom trend actually fix your attention span. So this article actually kind of goes into whether this methodology really works. I won't read all of it at all, of course, but I definitely implore people check it out. But I mean, it kind of does give some evidence, not evidence, it's trying to give some examples and some people that have spoken on this particular topic. Specifically, scroll down, Ghost. Um, as regards to can it fix your attention spans, we're all in a not all of us, but a lot of us do deal with the constant news and just information feeding into our brain damn near 20 plus hours a day. So can it help fix your attention span? Can diving into boredom actually fix your attention span? I suppose it could. Andres, ooh, that's the last name, Elpidoro, the author of The Anatomy of Boredom and writer and researcher at University of Louisville, told Newsweek over email, but it's not that simple. They said, noting that it would depend on whether one engages in an activity regularly and mindfully. So it seems like something you have to do consistently. A one-off event does not. A one-off event does not a skill make. Repetition training in is it habitation or habituation? Scroll down. All seem to me to be necessary for development of lasting and impactful capacities. And if you scroll down, there's another example. Wait, go down to this TikToker and play it. They said they're doing for 5 minutes.
Oh, the timer didn't go off though, so she just kept going. Probably.
Oh, got you. Um, I guess it ended up being a lot longer, but I don't want to come to any conclusions. But if you can't sit still for 5 minutes, yeesh, that's kind of startling. Scroll down. Yeah, I don't want to read too much of this, but it is good. Always good to get some insight on whenever there's like some professionals that are can speak on the topics that we're talking about. So we also have an Elizabeth H. Waybright, professor at Washington State University, told Newsweek over email that her first reaction to this trend was, "I'm all for it. The overall idea of sitting in boredom and doing nothing is really valuable for children as well as adults." Dang. Now, well, I say people should be able to do this for some time amounts of time. I'll be kind of curious to actually ask you guys now, so I'm not just talking. How long do you guys think that somebody should be able to sit still and do nothing reasonably? Let's start with you, Ghost.
You said just sorry. You say how long?
Yeah, 5 minutes,
Uh,
an hour, multiple hours, half an hour.
Literally nothing. Like you're not doing any type of anything productive. Like you're not cleaning. You're not listening to anything. Just
Raw dog and boredom. We've seen the examples.
Your ghost is
uh,
struggling already.
yeah. I mean, for this is something I 100% struggle with. I'd say like. Oh, okay. I guess there's a question, a caveat. Does like meditation count, or does it? Is it literally nothing?
I would say
Bro,
it
you just
counts.
saw the example. Do you need to see it again? Did you see that woman doing anything?
You just
I
can't
don't.
do
I mean,
anything with your body. Like you obviously can think, like, or or
I
whatever.
mean,
You
I
can
in my
meditate.
mind, sitting still, doing nothing, and meditation are kind of different. But I think 20 to 30 minutes is a reasonable expectation to do literally nothing. Beyond that, I think not only I know I certainly struggle with it. Not only would I struggle with it, I just think it's kind of pointless because there's a difference between cutting back on inundating yourself with a whole bunch of stuff, stimuli that you don't need, and doing nothing for the sake of doing nothing, and that's not productive. Especially if you're
Well,
not like
some of the stuff in
actively.
this article might say otherwise, but we'll get further
Ghost
into it.
there. I would think of it from the perspective of not necessarily that you're doing nothing productive, but if you weren't doing it, you also would be doing nothing productive, i.e., scrolling on social media, which is, I would assume what these people would be
Uh,
doing if they weren't on, or if they weren't trying to do this boredom thing.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that says
I
something.
guess that is an interesting
You're not raw
distinction.
dogging boredom in lieu of having you have stuff to do. You're doing it in lieu of some of this scrolling or some of this other stuff that seems like it. We know for a fact it damages our mentality.
So that is a valid point. Yeah, I'm just thinking because technically, I mean, we've all sat in car rides as a kid, and there are certain car rides where there's like not any music playing. You're just sitting there looking out the window. Would that count?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Quest said, as far as like what he does on planes, even I think that counts.
Yeah, it definitely
Okay.
counts. Although
I'm
I
just thinking: is there a distinction between you're in the process of doing something or going somewhere, and you make the choice to not do anything, but you still have this like a goal in mind, like or an end destination,
Yeah, I
versus
kind
like
of.
if I'm sitting at home and I just decide, you know what, I'm doing nothing for 30 minutes. It feels different to me. I don't know why though.
I actually agree. I think it's a definitely adjacent, but I think intentionality um does a bit does differ it a bit.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Well, I mean, you could say that, but I think the intentionality can be there in both situations. Like, I would say if the intentionality is there, if you're on a car ride and you choose not to use your phone
Yeah, that's
or you
true.
choose not to, then it's the same thing. But you're well,
Maybe it's not different. Maybe there's just levels to it. Maybe because if you're in a car ride, unless you're literally like staring into like maybe the back of your seat, you could still be like really being engrossed with everything that you're passing by.
that's
is
true,
driving a
but
car is driving
people
a
would
car
still
equivalent to
say,
scrolling on social media?
no. I think people would still say, like, you could be absorbed in your surroundings, but if you're just bored, if you're just sitting and doing nothing, you could also be engrossed in your own thoughts, which I think can be just they can still be considered a boring activity from the outside, but and so they would like qualify in the same way, but at the same time, like your mind is engaged
Well, I think
in
that's what.
a
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say your mind is engaged and able to and not, I don't know, not be stimulated by um not be stimulated in like the dopamine gratification way that like social media stimulates it, or whatever, um music, whatever,
Yeah, I definitely
would
understand.
stimulate it.
Yeah, it's definitely a wide difference or a noticeable difference than when you're actually consuming things and that's impacting your brain. And I think some of this stuff that we'll read or get into will kind of get more further into it. But I think the kind of the premise is what some people would say is that like the way, unfortunately, or for better or for worse, a lot of people's minds are set up to even just kind of sit with your own thoughts and just kind of everything that encapsulated that. Most people can't even get to that point. Like if they were to sit
Right,
with their
exactly.
if they were to just sit with their own thoughts, they some people might experience some level of pain. I would argue. It's kind of like it's
Right.
kind of bad.
Yeah,
So
their
kind of
thought
just
would be, I'm bored, I don't want to do this. Like,
yeah,
get me out of this situation.
yeah. So kind of getting back to it, maybe it's may not so much different. It just kind of levels to it. Like literally just sitting, not moving, maybe walking around to some extent. You're still like using your body to some extent. Again, maybe if you're driving in a not you driving, but if you're in a car that's driving, you're kind of absorbing like things that are going around you, planes, so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, but to ask you directly, and I was gonna ask, can you guys do it? But maybe your answer specifies whether you could do it or not. But what would you say is like a reasonable amount of time to do this trend is?
I mean, to be honest, I would say 10 minutes. Like,
Mm,
if you can do it for 10 minutes, if you can do it for 10 minutes, and especially if you can um do that consistently, like, I think that in and of itself can be helpful in terms of the way this is talking about, where you're able to start rebuilding your attention span. So yeah, even 10 minutes would be good.
yeah. I kind of want to ask you. Do you think most people could do that? But I think this kind of gets into that like generational thing, which kind of sucks. Um,
No way, yeah.
I wonder how kids, one day will. Well, I think with the way we raise kids, it can be a bit different. But I wonder how kids these days deal with like timeout. Like we all remember that timeout where it's like there's no TV, there's no nothing, and if depending on how, I guess we've never experienced them. I've never experienced that. Like I know you love books so much you can't even read.
Bro, that was the worst of the punishments because when I've had that happen to me multiple times because my parents knew how much I like reading, and when I got my books taken away and it was literally nothing in your room, that is the worst.
I mean, they didn't let you read the Bible.
I
That's
mean,
funny.
yeah, I think it was like the Bible and that's it. Which is like, I mean, you can read the Bible, but I'm not necessarily reading the Bible for the purpose of like, I'm not reading the Bible like I'm reading like Lord of the Rings or something. A different
Yeah.
intent behind it. But I do like the staying in the corner punishment. Like, go stand in the corner for an hour. I don't. Would that? I guess that would kind of count, and that was a painful punishment.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we've all experienced that in some capacity.
Yeah. It's really can be challenging to really kind of tie because we already kind of made somebody they kind of already kind of alluded to the fact that it is like resistance training and we all know the impacts of like when we're weightlifting or when we're doing some type of strength training. If this really is 1 to 1, you could maybe you say like the pain quote unquote is comparable, but it's just weird to think about how that could actually like help you in some regards. But I guess to kind of further expound on that, again, I'll just read a little bit more. The overall idea of sitting and boarding. Go back up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
The overall idea of sitting and boarding is really nothing valuable. Oh yeah, I actually read that some of that. However, she highlighted uh, one concern about the trend. Social media can often represent extremes and short-lived trends. She said, "I'm not sure we know how much of doing nothing is good enough to be beneficial. There might be a tipping point. Oh, interesting. Where doing nothing for the sake of social media isn't beneficial long term. For the sake of social media. And although a one-time reset might be helpful for a bit, it likely would be better to practice doing nothing on a regular basis." Waybright said. Meanwhile, Heather C. Lynch, PhD, professor of psychological and brain sciences at Texas University, told Newsweek that there are probably benefits to learning to tolerate boredom and to reducing the habits of picking up phones and screens when bored. Lynch likened the trend to exposure therapies, when people are flooded with a stimulus that they have a phobia or fear about. Ooh. And similar to limitations with exposure therapy, Lynch said that there could be drawbacks to this trend. She instead suggested systematic desensitization. I kind of butchered that. My apologies. The idea is to start by learning to tolerate a little bit of feared stimulus while practicing to control. Oh, I understand what they're talking about now. So this is how people get over phobias. I see, I see. And then gradually working your way up to a more fear stimuli. A similar approach to boredom seems like it would be more effective, Lynch said. Find an appropriate, find an approach to relaxation or mindfulness that works well for you, and then start with small periods of boredom or a task that you can find mindfully boring, gradually working your way up to longer periods or more boring experiences to build your tolerance. So yeah, it's really good to hear professionals kind of speak on this because yeah, I can definitely see somebody seeing the trend of like, oh, like do nothing for an hour and try to jump into that when that's probably not necessarily where you want to be. It probably is closer to something that you said, Ace, or like do for 10, 20 minutes regularly, and then if need be, work your way out. And like we're talking about how there's levels to it, it seems like you don't necessarily have to 100% do nothing. It seems like it's a world in which you can do like a task that's relatively like not really engaging. It's just enough to have some muscle memory to it. Okay, okay. So I mean, I guess based off what we're kind of looking at and you know ingesting and maybe based off our own experiences, what's our general take on this on raw dog and boredom? Y'all for it? Would y'all recommend it? Would y'all implement it in y'all lives or y'all potential future kids' lives? Or do you think at the end of the day, you know, maybe you're pro, like just get stimulated 24 plus 7 and maybe we'll evolve in something cooler if we continue to do that. What do you say?
Um, so the last year for me has been proof of this entire article as far as what we've read. I literally went through this process myself where I was like, I noticed that I was getting too caught up in like always having to have something playing in the background, whether it was
Mm,
a video, music, podcast, audiobook, something. And when I didn't have that, I was just always constantly having to put something on, regardless of what I was doing. And I thought to myself, like, why can't I be bored anymore? Like, not only did I used to be able to do it, but for thousands of years prior, this has been the state of humans. Like, you can just put on a podcast or whatever and listen to something. So I started, I think I told you guys, like, I got this app to block YouTube, or not block YouTube, but like um it blocks like recommended videos and things like that. And then eventually I decided to just try meditating. So
mm,
like which which is very similar to what this raw dogging boredom thing is. Whereas like that's why I said start with 10 minutes, because that's pretty much all I could do in the beginning, was just start with 10 minutes of doing quote unquote nothing. There's a little bit more to it in terms of like the intentionality of what you're trying to focus on. But essentially it's the same thing. You're not allowing yourself to be um stimulated by any external stimuli. And you can apply it to doing an activity that you can seem to be um mindless or boring as well. But yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Like you're not allowing yourself to be motivated by stimuli. So yeah, I when I started doing it, like, and started doing it relatively consistently, like first few days, I actually did see the extreme change they're saying with the um with how they were saying, like, when you start with like a shock therapy or something like that, you can notice uh, uh um an extreme difference in whatever the person is afraid of, or trying to get over. Like, you can notice an extreme difference in their mind activity or whatever. And I noticed that my focus, after I started doing it consistently for the first few days, it like skyrocketed. And it was
mm.
probably the same way for like a month or so. But I got a little, and I started to meditate more too. So bumped it up to like 30 minutes a day. But um but as I fell off, because just generally I'm bad at staying consistent with anything, I did notice it start to decline. And then I don't feel like I've gotten to that high of like focus again. But I've still tried to incorporate like meditation in more of a consistent way to at least get back to, or at least maintain a better standard than I had, say, last year. So yeah, like pretty much everything the article has said up to this point, I can completely agree with. And yeah, I mean, the only other thing I would potentially recommend is like, instead of just quote unquote raw dogging boredom and not having a systematic way to do it, like, I would recommend looking into actual meditation and seeing what that entails. Because I do think there can be more benefits than just like the focus, quote unquote, getting a bit your attention span back. Um, and really recommend a book like Mindfulness in Plain English. Um, was the book I read to your idea of that.
Nice. Nice. Thank you for the recommendation on that topic as well. Nice, and it's great that we have some actual real world experience with this type of like system that the topic is talking about. It seems like it actually does work. Like, we have a testament here, our testimony here. So that's dope to hear. The only one thing that kind of comes out of my mind, and all of the things you said is, while if it helps in the end, there's really nothing to talk about. But you kind of mentioned how, like, how people in the past have been able to do this kind of thing, and
Hmm.
it's not issuing at all. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're aware, but we have to do keep in mind people the type of lives that people lived in the past are just drastically different. Like the things that we do for work, the way in which we worked, how much we stay inside, a lot of that's just different. Obviously, there probably was a lot more stillness back then, but there's a lot more movement as well. A lot more things that are dynamic.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, that's super dope there. And obviously, everything you're saying does map. I think if we do just start to take our mind away from having consuming information, I think we can definitely put ourselves in a position where we're more focused, where we can actually hold on to our attention.
Yeah, real quick to that last point, like um the my mentality was more so, well, if I for some reason didn't have my phone, or like, I don't know, lose everything, like, am I going to go crazy because I can't
Yeah,
stimulate myself anymore with all these things? So that was more so like where I was kind of.
yeah, yeah. I think you. I mean, not we're not at moral stories yet, but definitely one thing people should take away is that like you got to take a break away from consumption of like things that stimulate your mind. And the largest thing in this day and age that is like having access to the internet. Um, but what about you, Ghost? What do you make of this trend, this system? Do you think it can help? Would you recommend it? Would you implement it more? Would you recommend it to others, maybe people in your family?
Um, I don't have too much to add beyond what Ace said. Like, I think there are there can be definite benefits, even beyond like just cutting off the dopamine rushes, just learning to be more satisfied and uh complacent's not the word I'm looking for. More satisfied and willing to accept not being stimulated 24/7 with something going on in the background. You're always doing something or something external is driving you forward. I think there is definitely good that can come of that. Um, I mean, I know for myself, I am guilty of always having like something, uh, needing something to focus on. And I don't know. I feel like I've kind of always been that way, but I don't know if it's something that maybe is amplified with the having a phone all the time and having access to all this stuff. Because I like how Ace had mentioned, like he kind of noticed that he isn't able to be bored. Like when I was younger, and this wasn't the olden days, obviously, but I didn't have like a smartphone until an older than typical age, and really my entertainment came from reading and I mean watching TV and stuff. That's pretty much it. And when I was on punishment, which was a lot as a kid, I did dumb stuff. I mean, I would often like there would be long stretches, like hour-long stretches, where I really had nothing to do or nothing to focus on, and it was annoying then, but I feel like it would be pretty painful now. I've kind of gotten used to uh, having accessibility to these external things. So I don't know. I think there's some value in like weaning yourself off, but at the same time, like outside of the dopamine rushes and all that, is there any tangible negative effect for this? Because I know you mentioned like it improve your focus, Ace, but I don't know. I'm just wondering
Is
like
it
are is it worth it to like kind of put yourself through that difficulty and that torture? I don't want to say torture is dramatic, but
torch?
is it worth it to do it just for the sake of it, or is there
Yeah,
any?
yeah. To, like, I don't think there is a negative effect to it, which the article alludes to as well. Like, the only negative is if you're not consistent with it, then you kind of lose the benefit. But I don't think there's
I
any
mean,
negative to it.
the negative effect is while we should live lives in which we can sit with our stillness, like it's not necessarily like a favorable thing. Like if we could be consuming, if we could be learning, if we could be more productive. Not to say that I don't know who here believes in being like a max productivity lifestyle, but you could the body in a lot of cases wants to do more.
I I guess you can say it from a perspective of like if you're if you're meditating for hours on end throughout the day, then yeah, you're taking away time where you could be doing things that would be productive. Um that's the only but that's the only real thing. Like the meditation or the the boredom, raw dog and boredom, however you want to put it, um itself I don't think has negatives. Like the actual act of doing it I don't think has negative. I think it pretty much just has positives, because the more you do it, like the I think the more benefits you see. So I've just focused on the focus aspect of it, and when I started that was my only goal. Like I was just like, I just want to have better focus, and I literally got that. But also on top of that, like one thing I've noticed, which I think you could understand, is like me not having to constantly have something playing or constantly be stimulated or being distracted by these things too. I've noticed that it is a lot. It's helped me with like interactions with others, where if somebody's interrupting or not, it, in situations where somebody would be interrupting me from something I was watching or something I wanted to do, like I don't react. I react much less um in a being annoyed way or whatever, because I my attention isn't constantly needing to be grabbed by something that I'm entertained by. So
Mm,
that's been another thing, like just in general, increasing my like I don't know tolerance for um uh or not necessarily tolerance, but like uh embracing being in the moment as opposed to and interacting with others, as opposed to again constantly needing something that I want to I want to be entertained by, I want to be doing, even like playing video games or whatever. All of it kind of factors in.
yeah.
So yeah,
So with those positive benefits that you mentioned, like what is the distinction? Like, or is there a noticeable distinction between like you sitting there and not having anything going on for like a half hour, let's say, versus
yeah.
you're in the same exact position except you have music playing? What what tangible difference does that make? Because in my mind, it wouldn't really be one, but um, I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, like, I think you can approach activities in the same way, and it more so comes down to the what do you call it, the intentionality of it. So like, because in the past, like just thinking of it from my perspective, I don't really listen to music, or I never really listened to music like that, where I would just music would be the only thing that I would be doing, that I would be
Yeah,
engaged in. Like
that's like some high
it
school
would be
shit where you're
something.
just laying in your bed listening to music or something like that.
Yeah. There would be something else going on, like that I was doing, playing video games or whatever. So if you are like specifically focused on, actually fully engaged in the activity that you're doing, I think that's just as that can be just as valid as doing nothing. But the I think doing nothing is, because it's like a more extreme version of it. It kind of forces you to it forces you to completely relinquish any external stimuli. So it's like kind of like the most extreme version of that intentionality that you can have. So like then when you go back to whatever, working or listening to music or whatever, like you know what it feels like to do that with intentionality, as opposed to like every minute your mind thinks, jumps to, oh, I want to listen to this song while you're working or whatever. Or even if you're listening to music, oh, I want to go to this album. Like you can still get more of. I mean, the focus is kind of the is the benefit of that, and um it's it is yeah, it's what you get after um when you practice like the just literally doing nothing. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose it does.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
and I mean, just one last thing I will say is like with with the that kind of gets to like the quote unquote purpose of meditation. It's not necessarily that the end goal is to be able to just sit and do nothing for hours on end. It's so that you can apply that mentality of being more intentional, more single minded, and throughout your life. So meditation is called a practice because it's literally like the practice that you do to be able to apply that mentality to the rest of your life. But yeah, the book I recommended goes into much more detail, obviously.
Got you. Got you. Yeah. I mean, it seemed like by and large, there was not by and large. I see for the most part, it seemed like there is some um credence to what um this article and what the trend is kind of speaking to us, both from uh, personal experiences and kind of just understanding the dynamics of putting away things that are stimulating our brain and the impact that that can have for us. Um, yeah, it can definitely have some benefits if they want kind of getting to like actual takeaways. It seems like if you have at any point in your life felt like you are kind of like losing your attention span and sometimes you feel kind of aggy and just in your stillness, definitely something you should try. Definitely kind of ease yourself into it. Don't just try to jump in and do an hour. Just a couple minutes here and there, really taking away, um, and kind of build on top of that. One thing I wanted to add, I don't know if it's the last thing. One other thing I want to add from a person that also, I don't know, it seems like he has the ultimate, like I'm gonna just do nothing strats, but from a person that does believe in definitely taking breaks from internet and things that grab your attention or that require your attention. Um, One other benefit, it in my experience, it can help with like patience. In the
Right.
sense
Yep.
in the sense that uh like if you're a person that can get easily provoked or like emotions can be stirred, and I don't know if it's just a me thing. It's not like maybe you can understand what I'm putting down as well, Ace, but there's something about just like putting yourself in like I don't know if it's like the time factor because like when we're looking at that one homegirl, like the fact that you're kind of just sitting there for a time and you're kind of waiting on something, but eventually you get to a point where like you're kind of you can sit with that time. I think that's also like I can just I'm just my patience just have increased over the years. When I have the mentality of okay, this is just gonna be a period where I'm not really hyper focused on anything right now.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, so yeah, obviously there can be multiple benefits, and it could probably impact different people differently. Again, depending on how cooked your brain is, if you try this, you might feel some level of agony starting off. But I think most people would generally agree that um, you should be able to sit in stillness for a period of time. Um, and kind of and going back to the attention span aspect, the particular part of the article that we're looking at. Again, I would definitely recommend everyone read this article on your own time. Another reason why this is because such a recommended thing is because um, it speaks about. I'll just read this last part. It's well documented that attention spans are declining rapidly. Gloria marked, a psychologist at the University of Carolina, California. My apologies. Irvine told the Speaking of Psychology podcast That an average attention span has dramatically decreased in recent years. Back to 2004, we found average attention span on any screen to be 2.5 minutes, he said. Around 2012, it dropped to 75 seconds. In the last few years, it's about 47 seconds, and the median is just 40 seconds. So, like, to kind of paint a picture of like the fact that it's just plummeting. Like, you tell somebody something, and in the next minute, they're completely on to the next thing. They don't even remember you or what you just said. So, if you don't want to be in that box of you can't even remember the conversations or the things that you're consuming, you're just always on to the next thing, definitely recommend you sit with your stillness, do a little rot, you do a little boredom, little boredom tasting. um
Yeah.
but and I'm sure this will be something that we kind of bump into again, because I feel like this is just the kind of the introduction of this, but there's probably going to be some crazy developments with this trend. But for now, unless there's anything else, we can move on to the next topic.